Oh, we are live. Sausage bread. I like sausage bread. Actually, should do the Bruce Buffer. You know who Bruce Buffer is? You know UFC. The fighting in the cage. Bruce Buffer is the guy who does the ring announcements. And we are live! It's showtime! For 3 rounds in the UFC heavyweight division! Yes. No wonder I kept that bucket there. That bucket comes out really, really good. Anyway, alright. Sorry for the, well, actually, no, I'm not sorry for the fun and frivolity. I love fun and frivolity. Because you can never, especially when no one's life is on the line, like me reading a book. Yes, fun and frivolity are awesome. So anyway, yes, my name is Damien, the tall, friendly atheist dad from the Tall, Friendly Atheist Dad podcast. Thank you for listening, watching, joining, as I go through part 7 of reading of Frank Turek and Norman Geisler's I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. I'm sitting on the warm reading bed. I haven't quite got in there because it's such a warm day today. We don't actually need to be in the warm reading bed. We can merely sit on top of it. And the warm reading sun is more of a warm sausage bread eating sun. He's having late dinner because he was busy doing homework. I think he's the only kid who I have to tell not to do homework. Otherwise, right? So yes. Oh, gee, that sounds a lot nicer. So yeah, anyway, with the announcement today that our beloved Premier will be opening playgrounds up. Children under 12 will be allowed at playgrounds from 11:59 tonight, but they have to sign in with a QR code. and only one parent or caregiver can go with the child to the playground, and they are advised not to remove their masks, especially to eat or drink. So, I think COVID has brought out both the worst in us and the best in us. And sometimes you're right there.
Woo.
I don't know what they're teaching at school, but that was... So yes, anyway. So part 7 of I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. So let me just quickly get set up. Now... Let me just quickly... I better learn how to spell. Thank you. Just leaving a comment in the chat. Okay, beautiful. So, just getting... Oh, hello. Oh, I think I have a guest. But he's not connected. They'll need to be connected. So, yes, part 7 of I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. Oh, actually, can you get my pillow from my room, please, darling son? Yes, so... COVID has brought out the best and the worst in us, and sometimes the silliest as well. So I'm just imagining now there's a whole heap of council guys, rushing to put QR stickers on playgrounds. It's like, okay, that's... Oh, anyway, it's... Gotta love it. Anyway, so I will now... I can see my friend JJ has jumped in, but... Oh, he's left a message in the private chat. Yes, so my friend JJ is in the. Oh no, system can't detect his mic. Get a new system. Might be the easiest way around it. So, yes, so we're currently in almost at the end of chapter 2 of this book. And this chapter is titled, thank you very much, appreciate it. You know, people on the world can hear you, when you do that. Yeah, so this is the chapter titled, Why Should Anyone Believe Anything at All? Now, I would like to wait for JJ, because he is a degree qualified both theologian and archaeologist. And I would love to get his opinions on this. All right, so... Yeah, I'll carry on. When JJ jumps in, I will let him jump in. But anyway, I'll start with the click of the fingers in 3, 2, 1. So what? Who cares about truth? Sometimes we ask our students, what's the greatest problem in America today? Is it ignorance or is it apathy? One time a student answered, I don't know and I don't care. That sums up the problem in America today. Many of us are ignorant and apathetic about truth. But not when it comes to money, medicine, or the other tangible items we mentioned earlier. We care passionately about those things, but many people are ignorant and apathetic about truth in morality and religion. We know you're not, because you're taking the time to read this book. Are the people who have adopted the whatever theme of the culture right? Or does truth in morality and religion really matter? It really matters. How do we know? First, even though people may claim that truth in morality doesn't matter, they don't really believe that when someone treats them immorally. For example, they might claim that lying is wrong, but just watch how morally outraged they get when you lie to them, especially if it's about their money. We often hear that it's the economy, stupid, but just think about how much better the economy would be if everyone told the truth. There would be no Enrons or Tycos. There would be no scandals or scams. There will be no burdensome government regulations. Of course the economy is important, but it's directly affected by morality. Morality undergirds virtually everything we do. It not only affects us financially, but in certain aspects, it also affects us socially, psychologically, spiritually, and even physically. A second reason truth in morality matters is because success in life is often dependent on the moral choices a person makes. These include choices regarding sex, marriage, children, drugs, money, business dealings, and so on. Some choices bring prosperity, others result in ruin. Third, as we pointed out in a previous book, Legislating Morality, all laws legislate morality. The only question is, whose morality will be legislated? Think about it. Every law declares one behaviour right and its opposite wrong. That's morality. Whose morality should be legislated on issues such as abortion or euthanasia? These are issues that directly impact the lives and health of real people. If it's morally wrong to kill innocent people, shouldn't that truth be legislated? Likewise, whose morality should be legislated on other issues of public policy that may affect your life, health, or finances? The answers we legislate can dramatically affect every citizen's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Okay, so I'm going to stall for time just to wait for JJ to pop back in, because he's I can see he's left. He's maybe getting a new system to help with his system issues. But all right. Oh, thank you. What's up? I can't hear you. I don't know what you're trying to say. You want to eat into my microphone? You want me to talk into the microphone? You want me to mute the microphone? All right, going to mute the microphone. No, he's not back in yet. Yeah, it's a shame because I know he was interested in popping in, and I know he was having system issues though. Anyway, where was I? Thank you for that reminder, by the way. Thank you for letting me know about your graduation. Where was I? The thing is, though, that not every piece of legislation has to do necessarily with morality. Like, for example, financial standards, technical engineering standards. Yeah, it's like there are some that, you know, like I suppose you can make the case that all legislation is morality, but yeah, I think it is a little bit of a stretch. Certainly in the American response anyway. Like, is taxation a moral issue? Well, if you think of taxation as a way for the government to get money to pay for services that we need, then yeah, maybe you can call it morality, but then is it right for the government to take money that they haven't earned? Oh, hello. Oh, I have a special guest. I think someone's system has finally started working, and now I'm going to jump in. Good evening.
Good evening. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
I can hear you, and then the rest of the world can hear you as well.
Oh, last minute technical issues. I had to go into an old laptop, but my PC is what I normally use, and it's a good quality mic and a good system. And of course, it just keeps coming up. Cannot find your mic or webcam. But anyway, I'm here now. Or I was here now.
Do you have the book there, JJ?
I don't have the book, no.
No, okay, no, fair enough. I haven't read too far anyway. So yeah, so I'm currently on page, or if you did have the book, or anyone else who's reading along, page 67, which is the back end of the chapter titled "Why Should Anyone Believe Anything at All?" And he's just made the point that basically legislation is enforcing someone's morality, but really whose morality should we be enforcing?
All right.
So what I'll then do is, I'll read. I'll read a paragraph. If you hear something that tickles your fancy, feel free to stop me. And yeah, or if I come across something that tickles my fancy, I'll stop it as well. Where was I? Okay. So I'll go back to the book in 3, 2, 1. There's no doubt that what we believe to be true about morality directly impacts lives. Did it matter that the United States Supreme Court, as reflected in the 1857 Dred Scott decision, believed that blacks were not citizens but the property of their slave owners? Did it matter that the Nazis believed the Jews were inferior to the Aryan race? Does it matter today what we think about the moral status of people in other racial or religious categories? Of course, truth in morality matters. What about truth in religion? That truth can impact us even more profoundly than truth in morality. A fellow naval officer helped me, Frank, realise this back in 1988 when I was a new Christian. Here we go. I think he's going to... I don't know about you, JJ, but I get a little bit cynical whenever apologists bring up a story to help prove a point.
Oh, it's incredible the number of Christians who have anecdotal evidence. Your friend, Mr. Hovind, is the same.
Oh, is he your friend now? Okay, that's a development. Anyway, all right. So back to the. At the time, we were deployed with a U.S. Navy flight crew to a Persian Gulf country. It was near the end of the Iran-Iraq War, and tensions were still high. When you're in a foreign and dangerous place, you tend to ponder your life and your mortality more seriously and frequently. One day, we were doing just that, talking about God and the afterlife. During a conversation, my friend made a comment that has stuck with me to this day. Referring to the Bible, he said, "I don't believe the Bible, but if it is true, then I'll be in big trouble." Of course he was right. If the Bible is true, then my friend has chosen an unpleasant eternal destiny. In fact, if the Bible is true, then everyone's eternal destiny can be read from its pages. On the other hand, if the Bible is not true, then many Christians are unwittingly wasting a lot of time, money, and in some cases, even their lives, by preaching Christianity in hostile territories. Either way, truth in religion matters. What did you get from that lovely anecdote there, JJ?
I'm wondering why two non-Christians are talking about if the Bible is true or not. Well, was this before he was a Christian, this experience?
No, I think he just became one.
Oh, he just became one, right?
Yes, because he does say back in 1988 when I was a new Christian.
Oh, when you're a new Christian, right? So I'm always a bit dubious about these anecdotes. I mean, who's to say whether it's true or not? I suppose it's not outrageous. You could give them the benefit of the doubt. And there are, they always seem to just fit exactly the situation that they want.
Yes, it's almost like they're written for purpose.
Yes, and so many times they seem to be speaking to an expert, a professor or doctor. Professor, doctor just seems to know nothing about their subject.
That's from here. I think he's trying to. I see a little bit of Pascal's wager in here.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
He's going. Well, if the Bible's true, guess where we're going, and guess where you're going. But this is the thing. This is something that I raise when I discuss the morality of God in the Bible, where it's got, then my friend has chosen an unpleasant eternal destiny. I get given the apologetic, and you may have come across as well, that, God doesn't send people to hell, people send themselves to hell.
Oh, yeah. And
I come back with the robbery at gunpoint analogy. It's like saying, well, look, if I rob someone at gunpoint of their wallet and their car, can I say to the judge, well, look, judge, the victim gave me his wallet and his car. The gun to his head was merely an extenuating circumstance.
Yeah, they don't see it as a threat. They see it as some sort of the greatest act of love, you have a way out of this situation, and you don't have to go to the lake of fire. And the way to avoid this is to believe I sent my son to be tortured and executed,
that's
so you can have eternal life. And I
and,
don't see
and,
the.
and I think even that, like the whole concept of substitutionary atonement,
Yeah.
does have some issues. But anyway, I'll start reading the next paragraph, which in three,
Okay.
two, one. It also matters if some other religion is true. For example, if the Quran is true, then I'm in just as much eternal trouble as my non-Christian Navy friend. On the other hand, if the atheists are right, then we might as well lie, cheat, and steal to get what we want, because this life is all there is, and there are no consequences in eternity.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
Oh,
whoa.
yes.
Just hold the horses here.
Exactly. This is something that I've noticed, like already in the 60-something pages of the book, is that if you're like the concept of a moral atheist is sort of like an exception. It's very rare that you'll find a moral atheist. We we are just supreme relativists who only look out for ourselves because we eat babies or something.
And the evidence is all against that as well. I mean, well, for one, there are consequences in this life. We believe this is the only life that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So are we, stealing and raping and pillaging, there are consequences for that. You could throw away the only life that we know that we have. But it's not that we feel like doing that anyway. Before Frank was a Christian, did he feel like raping and pillaging and stealing? Did his morality only appear once he became a Christian? Or is that the only thing stopping him from doing all these things?
Well, that's a very good question, because I think it was who was it? Ray Comfort. When he does his street talk,
Yes.
he will go, if I wasn't a Christian, I'd be in jail by now. It's like, well, that I think that says more about you than it does anything else, buddy. Anything else.
I don't think he actually thinks like that anyway. I mean, that's a rhetoric and sales pattern as far as I can see. I mean, that's suggesting that all Christians are, the model of morality. And I mean, the prisons in America, they're full of Christians. I think the atheist population is less than 1%. Sorry.
I have read that stat, and I suppose it's a little bit hard because there's really the problem with that is that like all the stats are self-identified. So because there's no like independent marker of a Christian, it's not like you get like a little white streak in your hair or something like that. It's just one of those things that you walk in, you fill in a form, or if you go to religious services, but
I think there's also incentives to be quote religious. Christian in jail as well. It's good for parole boards here, things like that. So it shouldn't be taken at face value. But look at the Christian family of the Hovins. There's Hovind, if he's a model of morality, been in prison for almost 10 years for tax evasion. Mrs. Hovind was in prison for a year. The son Eric stole Kent's ministry off him when he was in jail. He sold it to himself for like 1% of the value of the price. And this is supposed to be Christian morality that atheists can't hold a candle to.
No, exactly. And the latest on Mr. Hovind was that apparently there's a what is it called? Like a violent restraint order, like a domestic, because he got a bit too handsy with his girlfriend / wife, his spiritual wife. I think.
What's his spiritual wife now? Is it?
Because he hasn't officially divorced his second wife.
Unbelievable,
Yep. But if you do want to be horrified, if you go to Hemant Mehta's Friendly Atheist website, apparently she made a recording of what happened as the alleged assault happened, and it is pretty brutal listening to. Anyway, we've got about a page left of this section, so that's I love these versions. 3, 2, 1. But forget eternity for a minute. Consider the temporal implications of religious teachings around the world. In Saudi Arabia, some school children are being taught that Jews are pigs and that non-Muslims, infidels, should be killed, while thankfully a majority of Muslims do not believe that non-Muslims should be killed. Militant Muslims teach that type of jihad straight from the Quran. Is it really true that there's a God up there by the name of Allah who wants Muslims to kill all non-Muslims, which probably includes you? Does this religious truth matter? It does when those kids grow up to fly planes into buildings and blow themselves up in populated areas. Would it be better to teach them the religious truth that God wants them to love their neighbour? The Saudis may be teaching that Jews are pigs, but in our country, by means of a one-sided biology curriculum, yeah, guess where he's going there. We teach kids that there's really no difference between any human being and a pig. Oh lordy!
Really? Is that what they teach? Is it?
Yeah, I don't remember that. After all, if we're merely the product of blind naturalistic forces, if no deity created us with any special significance, then we are nothing more than pigs with big brains. Does this religious, atheistic truth matter? It does when kids carry out its implications. Instead of good citizens who see people made in the image of God, we are producing criminals who see no meaning or value in human life. Ideas have consequences.
Oh dear.
I know, exactly. This is like the you accept the theory of evolution because you're immoral, or because you're racist, or because you're this is like, it's a very, very six-day creationist argument.
Yeah. There's this idea that evolution equals atheism when the vast majority of Christians accept evolution.
Yep.
All these. This is one of the. Every single time I see this, and it's a common complaint. I always think, there's Francis Collins, for example. He's probably the best example.
Yep, indeed. Well, if you go to Biologos, biologos.org, apparently, like, they've got a list of like famous Christians who accepted evolution, and like Billy Graham's on there, C.S. Lewis, Professor Ken Miller, Theodosius Dobzhansky. There's like a whole like laundry list of Christians, and it's like, well, like, I can imagine a creationist going up to Francis Collins and going, "Oh, you're immoral because you accept the theory of evolution." No, I'm rational. Anyway, so there's two more paragraphs to go, so I'll finish those, and then we'll 3, 2, 1. On the positive side, Mother Teresa helped improve conditions in India by challenging the religious beliefs of many in the Hindu culture. The Hindu belief in karma and reincarnation leads many Hindus to ignore the cries of the suffering. Why? Because they believe that those who suffer deserve their plight for doing something wrong in a previous life. So if you help suffering people, you are interfering with their karma. Mother Teresa taught Hindus in India the Christian principles of caring for the poor and suffering. Does that religious idea matter? Ask the millions whose lives she touched. Does the religious teaching of karma matter? Ask the millions still suffering. The bottom line is this: regardless of what the real truth is concerning religion and morality, our lives are greatly affected by it today, and perhaps even in eternity. Those who cavalierly say, "So what? Who cares about truth in morality and religion?" are ignoring reality and are blindly skating on thin ice. We owe it to ourselves and others to find the real truth and then act on it. So let's get started with the question: does God exist? Wonderful. And that, my friend, is the end of chapter 2. Why should anyone believe anything at all? And it's not really... It didn't really tackle rational skeptical atheism. It more tackled like liberal university professor relativist atheism. it didn't really, it's...
These all
And
seem to be much the same, though, don't they? These approaches, it's the same sound bites, if you want to call it that, all the time.
yeah.
It's
But
never
just on his last paragraph about Mother Teresa, I am fortunate to have connected with a gentleman named Dr. Arup Chatterjee. He's an Indian doctor, and he was actually one of the two devil's advocates at Mother Teresa's beatification. So he wrote a book called Mother Teresa: The Untold Story. And it's it is kind of hard hitting, and it kind of tears at the myth that Mother Teresa was this literal saint. It's pretty hard. I do plan to get him on the podcast one day. He actually lives about 100 miles away from me. In my state, but because of all the COVID restrictions, it's very hard to actually. I want to meet him and get to know him and say, thanks for your good work. But so if you look for Arup Chatterjee on Twitter, he is on Twitter as well. He's a pretty cool fellow. But anyway, so we're now on to chapter 3, which is titled "In the Beginning There Was a Great Surge," and surge is spelt in all caps because it's actually. Is actually an acronym for we'll get to that. Actually, see where it actually gets. That's cool. No worries. All right, so he starts off with an Albert Einstein quote: "Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind." And this heading is called "Irritating Facts." It was in 1916, and Albert Einstein didn't like where his calculations were leading him. If his theory of general relativity was true, it meant that the universe was not eternal, but had a beginning. Einstein's calculations, indeed, were revealing a definite beginning to all time, all matter, and all space. This flew in the face of his belief that the universe was static and eternal. Einstein later called his discovery irritating. He wanted the universe to be self-existent, not reliant on any outside cause, but the universe appeared to be one giant effect. In fact, Einstein so disliked the implication of general relativity, a theory that is now proven accurate to 5 decimal places, that he introduced a cosmological constant, which some have since called a fudge factor, into his equations in order to show that the universe is static and to avoid an absolute beginning. But Einstein's fudge factor didn't fudge for long. In 1919, British cosmologist Arthur Eddington conducted an experiment during a solar eclipse, which confirmed that general relativity was indeed true. The universe wasn't static, but had a beginning. Like Einstein, Eddington wasn't happy with the implications. He later wrote, "Philosophically, the notion of a beginning of the present order of nature is repugnant to me. I should like to find a genuine loophole." By 1922, Russian mathematician Alexander Friedman had officially exposed Einstein's fudge factor as an algebraic error. Incredibly, in his quest to avoid a beginning, the great Einstein had divided by zero, something even school children know is a no-no. Meanwhile, Dutch astronomer Willem de Sitter had found that general relativity required the universe to be expanding. And in 1927, the expanding of the universe was actually observed by astronomer Edwin Hubble, namesake of the Space Telescope. Looking through the 100-inch telescope at California's Mount Wilson Observatory, Hubble discovered a redshift in the light from every observable galaxy, which meant that those galaxies were moving away from us. In other words, general relativity was again confirmed. The universe appears to be expanding from a single point in the distant past. All right, so when I first read, I've actually read this book, and I've read it up to about chapter 3. When I first read this book, I got a little bit annoyed because I think this remark is actually really snide and really immature. Where he goes, Incredibly, in his quest to avoid a beginning, the great Einstein had divided by zero, something even school children know is a no-no. That's and I actually, okay, not that I pretend to study at all, but I did a little bit of research on the interwebs, and like the theory of general relativity is like full of these constants and full of these other equations. And so to divide by zero, you have to like put a real hyper-specific instance of the equations you're trying to put in. It's like yeah, like it wasn't. How can I say? It's. I wish Geisler and Turek were better than this, but it's like, you know, it's like for all of Einstein's, you know, great accomplishments, you know, it's sort of like making him out to be so biased that, you know, he will even like defy the laws of mathematics to prove that there isn't a God.
Yeah.
But then you know, the pious Alexander Friedman, you know, God's hero in the story, comes along and proves that Einstein was lying.
It couldn't be mistaken, or I mean,
no,
about a genius here. You know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, but sort of like I just get this impression that, you know, they're trying to paint Einstein as like the guy who's running away from God, but it's up to, you know, God's man in the story, Alexander Friedman, to prove that, you know, the universe did indeed have a beginning. Yeah, so that part really annoyed me. It's just yeah. Anyway, I'll finish this section off. 3, 2, 1. In 1929, Einstein made a pilgrimage to Mount Wilson to look through Hubble's telescope for himself. What he saw was irrefutable. The observational evidence showed that the universe was indeed expanding, as general relativity had predicted. With his cosmological constant now completely crushed by the weight of the evidence against it, Einstein could no longer support his wish for an eternal universe. He subsequently described the cosmological constant as the greatest blunder of my life, and he redirected his efforts to find the box top to the puzzle of life. Einstein said that he wanted to know how God created the world. I'm not interested in this or that phenomenon, in the spectrum of this or that element. I want to know his thoughts. The rest are details. Albert Einstein said that he believed in a pantheistic God, a God that is the universe. His comments admitting creation and divine thought better describe a theistic God, and as irritating as it may be, his theory of general relativity stands today as one of the strongest lines of evidence for a theistic God. Indeed, general relativity supports what is one of the oldest formal arguments for the existence of a theistic God, the cosmological argument.
Oh, wonderful.
Did you know that, JJ? The cosmological argument.
I didn't see that coming either. No, it's the same tired old arguments all the time. It's things that have been refuted so many times.
Yep, indeed. And this is like another thing where I feel I'm not going to say malign, because I think malign is too strong a word, but the fact that Einstein actually did change his mind in line with the evidence.
Well, I've just been taking notes as you've been reading, and that's exactly what I've written down here. At least he changed his mind. He didn't dig his heels in. You know,
no, exactly. And unlike, I think it was Fred Hoyle. Like Fred Hoyle, for all his brilliance and his genius, you know, I think he was a little bit I'm going to say pig-headed, just in regards to a couple of aspects, particularly when it comes to, like, because I know that Fred Hoyle gets quoted by creationists, especially when it comes to the topic of evolution. But yeah, but it said, like, here, you know, at least Einstein changed his mind. But like, this is the thing. Like, what does it say? His theory of general relativity stands as one of the strongest lines of evidence. That's what I was about to say. Although Einstein said that he believed in a pantheistic God, no, he didn't believe in a pantheistic God at all. he didn't even believe in a God, because I think there was a quote that said, anything that you've read about my religious beliefs are entirely untrue. At close, I would believe in Spinoza's, how do I say it? Spinoza's God, which is like deism.
Yeah.
Earlier in the book, they basically describe three modes of religious thought: atheism, pantheism, or Abrahamic monotheism.
Right.
That's all there is. There's no nuance. There's nothing else in between. It's either it's those three or bust.
All right, fair enough.
and there was one comment before as well, where he said the box top to the puzzle of life. So in the previous chapters, there's a chapter called the box top to the puzzle of life, and what it means is that like it's like an idea that combines everything in life together to make it all make sense.
All right.
So he's of the idea that, with Christianity, and especially creationist Christianity, that, with Jesus, Jesus answers everything, and that is the box. You know how, like, for example, on puzzles, you have the picture of the puzzle that's inside on top of the box?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what they mean by the box tops of the puzzle of life is that, on top of the box top is the picture that you're looking for.
Ah, I see, right.
And so that's where, so if you do hear, if you've gone through any of the previous chapters, when I say box top, that's what they mean.
Oh, right. I understand now.
Yeah, it's not a very good. Oh, but there is one classic blunder that I picked up. I think it was in like the first or second part, where whoever wrote it said that the word university means unity in diversity.
I've never heard that one.
Well, I thought, hold on, no. So I thought, hold on, I did a double take, and I thought, hold on, how did that get past the editors? Like literally said, the word university, as in like, where you go for higher study, means unity in diversity. And I did a double take when I first read it. I thought, oh no, that's not correct. The word university comes from the Latin universitum, meaning, the complete body of knowledge.
Right.
Not unity in diversity. It's like, come on. Well, there you go. It is actually, I might send you a photo later on of where it's actually made it, but, they do actually make that argument.
They're also doing the classic being able to read people's minds as well. They're claiming to know exactly what Einstein's thinking. That's quite a common skill that apologists have. They seem to know what everybody else is thinking.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like they, weird. Maybe they should be on juries.
Yeah. But they seem to be determined to get, to me anyway, it looks like they're determined to arrive at the conclusion the universe had a beginning. It seems to be.
Well, look, the universe could have had a beginning, but that doesn't say. I still think it's a leap to go from the universe had a beginning, therefore universe creating pixies.
And also, the beginning as a universe, did it exist in some other form before that? It's still the universe, but as something else.
Yeah, indeed.
So it's a far more complex topic than this pair are able to deal with, and plus their target audience as well. Their target audience isn't going to.
Well, look, JJ, this book isn't written for skeptics. It's written for Christians to make them feel good that they've chosen the right thing. Yeah. Anyway, I'll continue on. The cosmological argument, the beginning of the end for atheism. Gee, that's a big stretch. Don't be put off by the technical sounding name, cosmological. Cosmological comes from the Greek word cosmos, which means world or universe. That is, the cosmological argument is the argument from the beginning of the universe. If the universe had a beginning, then the universe had a cause. In its logical form, the argument goes like this. Everything that had a beginning had a cause. The universe had a beginning, therefore the universe had a cause. As we showed in the last chapter, for an argument to be true, it has to be logically valid, and its premises must be true. This is a valid argument, but are the premises true? Let's take a look at the premises. Premise 1. Everything that had a beginning had a cause. Is the law of causality, which is the fundamental principle of science. Without the law of causality, science is impossible. In fact, Francis Bacon, the father of modern science, said, "True knowledge is knowledge by causes." In other words, science is a search for causes. That's what scientists do. They try to discover what caused what. If there's one thing we've observed about the universe, it's that things don't happen without a cause. When a man is driving down the street, a car never appears in front of his car out of nowhere with no driver or no cause. We know many a police officer has heard this, but it's just not true. There's always a driver or some other cause behind that car appearing. Even the great skeptic David Hume could not deny the law of causality. He wrote, "I never asserted so absurd a proposition as that something could arise without a cause." In fact, to deny the law of causality is to deny rationality. The very process of rational thinking requires us to put together thoughts, the causes, that result in conclusions, the effects. So if anyone ever tells you he doesn't believe in the law of causality, simply ask the person, what caused you to come to that conclusion? Since the law of causality is well established and undeniable, premise 1 is true. What about premise 2? Did the universe have a beginning? If not, then no cause was needed. If so, then the universe must have had a cause. JJ, what are your thoughts, buddy?
Well, this is a tired old argument that always get back to this stage where I need to take a leap. You know, if a universe did need a cause, they're not just promoting a general God. It's got to be their particular God. But it's always this leap. You know, there's so much that we don't know. You know, as the science is developing really quickly. You know, we've learned so much in the last 150 years or so.
Oh, indeed, indeed.
I mean, there might not be a need for that. You know, there might be an actual explanation for the universe coming into existence.
Oh, indeed, indeed. I'm a little bit skeptical as to whether we will actually find the actual cause of the universe, unless we somehow happen to observe a universe coming into effect. And I think that's would be very interesting. But the problem though is in at the quantum scale, classic Newtonian physics breaks down.
Yeah.
So the problem is I know. I was about to say, William Lane Craig is famous for the Kalam cosmological argument. And that was apparently created by a Muslim. I forget who it was. Was it Al-Ghazali?
I can't remember. I know the Kalam, but I can't remember who. I mean, it's an old argument, isn't it? It's a very old argument.
It is. But so what I was going to say was, I think the original Kalam was everything that exists has a cause. The universe exists, therefore the universe has a cause. But William Lane Craig slightly tweaks that to go, everything that begins to exist had a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe had a cause. And I think he tweaked that because if you go from the first form, which is that everything that exists has a cause, well then you go, well, God exists. What caused God? God is self-existing. Okay,
I'm sure they tweaked it for that reason. Yeah, he's very likely. I know many people have pointed out that the Kalam doesn't actually get you to God anyway. I mean, God's nowhere in the premises, you know.
No, exactly. That's the thing. I accept the validity of the Kalam because
valid,
correct. But is it sound?
Yeah, that's the problem. And anyway, I mean, this might just be one big argument from ignorance as well. You know that. No, we
Really?
don't.
An argument from ignorance from an apologist?
Taking a stab in
No.
the dark.
Anyway, I'll continue
Yeah.
on the book. Until about the time of Einstein, atheists could comfort themselves with the belief that the universe is eternal, and thus did not need a cause. Hey, JJ, did you ever comfort yourself with the belief that the universe is eternal?
I can't say I have. No, it's not something I ponder every day in my life. No.
Oh, okay, all right. But since then, 5 lines of scientific evidence have been discovered that prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the universe did indeed have a beginning. And that beginning was what the scientists now call the Big Bang. The Big Bang evidence can be easily remembered by the acronym SURGE.
Oh.
In the beginning, there was a great surge. Every several years or so, the major news magazines, Time, Newsweek, and the like, run a cover story about the origin and fate of the universe. When did the universe begin? And when will it end? Are 2 of the questions investigated in such articles. The fact that the universe had a beginning and will ultimately die is not even up for debate in these reports. Why? Because modern scientists know that a beginning and an ending are demanded by one of the most validated laws in all of nature, the second law of thermodynamics. Now, how well do you know the second law of thermodynamics?
I've really just heard, on YouTube, I've heard some discussions about it.
Oh, okay. What's the bet that Frank is going to get a lot of things about the second law of thermodynamics wrong?
I would put money on that, yeah, because they all tend to get it wrong.
No,
It's the entropy
okay.
thing, isn't it? Is it the entropy?
Something like that, yes. So
Yeah.
S, the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics is the S in our SURGE acronym. Thermodynamics is the study of matter and energy, and the second law states, among other things, that the universe is running out of usable energy. With each passing moment, the amount of usable energy in the universe grows smaller, leading scientists to the obvious conclusion that one day all the energy will be gone and the universe will die. Like a running car, the universe will ultimately run out of gas. You say, so what? How does that prove that the universe had a beginning? Well, look at it this way. The first law of thermodynamics states that the total amount of energy in the universe is constant. In other words, the universe has only a finite amount of energy, much as your car only has a finite amount of gas. Now, if your car has only a finite amount of gas, the first law, and whatever is running it continually consumes gas, the second law, your car would be running right now. So I lost my spot. Would your car be running right now if you had started it up an infinitely long time ago? No, of course not. It would be out of gas by now. In the same way, the universe would be out of energy by now if it had been running from all eternity. But here we are. The lights are still on, so the universe must have begun sometime in the finite past. That is, the universe is not eternal. It had a beginning. And I'll finish with this paragraph here because it highlights the point I'm about to make. A flashlight is another way to think about the universe. If you leave a flashlight on overnight, what's the intensity of the light in the morning? It is dim because the batteries have used up most of their energy. Well, the universe is like a dying flashlight. It only has so much energy left to consume. But since the universe still has some battery life left, it's not quite dead yet. It can't be eternal. It must have had a beginning, for if it were eternal, the battery would have died by now. Yes. This is. So I was going to say yes. He kind of gets it wrong because now there's an excellent discussion on this. Okay, so there's a pastor named Bill Cornelius. Bill Cornelius ran a seminar about proof for the existence of God, and he based his talk strongly on this book. Now it's on R&R's channel, But for the first part, Bill Cornelius uses the surge argument found in this book, and Aaron Ra invites a guy called King Crocoduck to come on and explain where Bill Cornelius gets things wrong. And the explanation that King Crocoduck gives for how the second law of thermodynamics works is mind-blowingly brilliant. But let's just say that, if you use the analogy like the car's running out of gas, or the battery's running out of energy, it's not quite true. What it actually is that what's happening is that the energy gradients in the universe required to perform mechanical or chemical work is running out, and that's what entropy is.
Right. Yeah.
The use of irreversible energy states. So obviously, once you do a process, you can't go back.
Right.
The problem though is that entropy is proportional to mass. And what are the most massive objects in our universe? Black holes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So most of the entropy in our universe is in black holes, something like 90 something %.
All right.
So it's a bit of a so when he says the car's filled up with gas, if the car's running out of gas, someone must have put gas in it in the first place. Therefore, God. So if you want your blood pressure to rise up, Aaron Ra's video, Church of Unlimited Errors, part 1, and that's where he actually gets King Crocoduck to do like an hour talk on how badly this guy gets things. In the second part, Bill Cornelius discusses evolution, and his literal argument is that evolution is false because, for example, if I get a broom and if I keep on sweeping with that broom, I'll get a blister on my hand, but nothing comes out of that blister, or my son isn't born with a blister, or nothing happens with that blister to improve my. I forget exactly, but yeah, he actually uses the analogy of sweeping with a broom in order to it's as bad as what you can imagine it is. Anyway, how far in are we? We are 50. So we are 57 minutes in. Cool. What I might do is I'll finish this page.
Okay.
And then so we've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs.
Okay, go for
and
it.
And then we'll call it a night, and we'll go from there. Anyway, 3, 2, 1. The second law is also known as the law of entropy, which is a fancy way of saying that nature tends to bring things to disorder. That is, with time, things naturally fall apart. Your car falls apart. Your house falls apart. Your body falls apart. In fact, the second law is the reason many of us get dresser disease. When we get older, our chest falls into our drawers. Okay. But if the universe is becoming less ordered, then where did the original order come from? Astronomer Robert Jastrow likens the universe to a wound-up clock. If a wind-up clock is running down, then someone must have wound it up. Before I continue on, this is where he gets the law of entropy wrong. The law of entropy isn't things running out of energy. It's not things going into disorder. It's not chaos. It's not, destruction. It's just the amount of energy gradients in order to perform mechanical or chemical work.
Right.
So this is the bad argument. Oh, someone must have. The universe is like a wind-up clock. Therefore, someone must have wound it up.
Oh.
It couldn't have been the universe creating pixies. No, of course not.
Oh no, it's Yahweh. There's nothing else all day but wind-up clocks.
This aspect of the second law also tells us that the universe had a beginning. Since we still have some order left, just like we still have some usable energy left, the universe cannot be eternal, because if it were, we would have reached complete disorder, entropy, by now. A number of years ago, a student from a Christian ministry on an Ivy League campus invited me, Norm, to speak there on a related topic. During the lecture, I basically told the students what we've written here, but in a lot more detail. After the lecture, the student who had invited me there asked me to have lunch with him and his physics professor. As we sat down to eat, the professor made it clear that he was skeptical of my argument that the second law requires a beginning for the universe. In fact, he said he was a materialist who believed that only material exists and that it has existed from all eternity. If matter is eternal, what do you do with the second law? I asked him. He replied, every law has an exception. This is my exception. I could have countered him by asking him if it's really good science to assume that every law has an exception. That doesn't seem very scientific and may even be self-defeating. It may be self-defeating when you ask, does the law that every law has an exception have an exception? If it does, maybe the second law is the exception to that law that every law must have an exception. The good old apologist analogy.
Oh,
and again, like a professor of physics who says that the second law of thermodynamics is one law that has an exception. Like, I don't.
Another conversation that just didn't happen, isn't it? I mean, a professor at university, probably dedicated his whole life to this subject, and this clown comes along who's, a philosopher, whatever he is, theologian, and rips him apart. He has no answers for this guy. This guy is devastating. The guy, it happens so many times. It's just this anecdotal stuff again. It suits his purpose. I just happened to meet this physics professor and I destroyed his whole life in one sentence.
If you go back to some of the previous readings, there was he mentions Ravi Zacharias when talking about Eastern logic versus Western logic, and he gives the anecdote that Ravi Zacharias was debating like one of these liberal university professors, and they were arguing about, what was the actual argument about? In the West, you have to use either or logic, but in India, you have to use both and logic, or something really dumb like that. Oh. And so apparently the argument between Ravi Zacharias and this professor went on so long that the professor's meal over lunch, started to congeal or something like that. And it was just this amazing, like, never have lunch with a Christian apologist. You may just end up in their book.
And I know that, excuse me, and they just, I was speaking to one, just talking about evolutionary and the DNA and the blister on the hand, and this guy was adamant. He said that if I cut my pinky off and then I cut my son's pinky off, he cuts his son's pinky off, and so on. He said eventually one of our sons will be born without a pinky. Oh dear, I said, I'll have to go. That's not. See, that doesn't affect your DNA. You're not going to be born. Just keep cutting your pinky off. And eventually, a distant descendant will be born without a pinky.
Well, that would be Lamarckian evolution, where traits acquired during the lifetime pass down onto the offspring. Right. Whereas Darwinian is through the genetics. Whatever you genetically inherit is then what you But yeah. Anyway, JJ, thank you for joining me tonight for this reading. I'll contact you privately if I'm going to do part 8 tomorrow, or actually, look, I'll let you know what I'm doing tomorrow. But yeah, I'll be reading at about 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you're available to join me, I would love you to. But otherwise, good evening to everyone. My name is Damien, the tall, friendly atheist dad. You can find me at Twitter at TFADpod, Facebook.com/TFADpod. The podcast is at Anchor.fm/TFADpod. Or you can go to the website www.tallfriendlyatheistdad. If you want to look for Archaeologian on Twitter, he goes at Bible Mythology. Wherever you are, wherever you happen to be, whatever time of day it is, look after yourselves and stay safe. Goodbye.